Well, hi there. Welcome, everyone, to the 2018 Natural ADHD Solutions Facebook Live Summit. And we're super excited to be kicking it off today. It is Monday, October 8th. And for our very first guest, we have Dr. Jason Dean from Revolution Health. And he's going to share with us his story, his unique perspective, and how he put that all together to be able to help us and help you live a healthier life and help your kids live a healthier life. So thanks so much for joining us. And I'd love to just throw it to you, Doc, and have you tell us a little bit about your story and your background, how you got to be doing what you're doing today.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate it. First off, thank you for having this because I don't think enough people are waking up to what's really going on out there. And the ADD, ADHD phenomenon, and I would say epidemic at this point. I mean, I did a promo video for the whole show yesterday, and, to know that the CDC and the APA are actually calling out like 15% of the child population now they call as ADHD or ADD, whatever you want to call it. And we're spending $42 billion a year just in this industry alone. So thank you for putting this on because obviously it's a big problem. It's a thing that needs attention. And we need to get to the root cause of why this is all happening. So kudos to you for doing this. And I guess now I get to bring the edge since I'm starting this off with you, but also my personality is very like in your face, what's going on with this. And I'm like that because honestly, and I'll dive into my story here, is because I say like this, I put my fingers together, I was this close to going down a very bad road that I didn't even know at the time. And so it's funny because now I'm a doctor, but when this actually occurred was in my mid-20s. And, I grew up kind of a tumultuous childhood. So parents divorced, was not necessarily the greatest dynamics in the world, I guess you would say. And so a lot of stress right from the beginning in childhood. And there's a moment I go back to, which was my mom, who actually is a recovering, I think, 15-plus year drug and alcohol addict now. She's recovered and sober and doing very well. She used to do really good. She worked like 3 jobs, but she still fed me really well. She didn't feed me any junk, any garbage. And it was funny, the day I turned 16 years old was the day I went and got my first job. And I remember getting my first paycheck, and I came home with like double fist hands full of candy bars, soda, Mountain Dew, you name it, because now I had my money, and my mom said, if you buy it with your own money, I'm not buying it for you. You're going to eat what I put on the table. And so that's really kind of where it started. But fast forward, my mid-20s, I was having heart attack symptoms, and I mean like physician textbook heart attack symptoms, like down the arm, shoulder, chest tightness. I literally felt like an elephant was sitting on my chest at all times, and very anxious, super anxiety. I would call mild depression. I wouldn't call it major depression, but mild depression. But the chest tightness and the stress and the heart attack feel, and keep in mind, I had a family history of heart disease in the family. And so I was a little scared about that because I wasn't a doctor at the time. I had no clue on healthcare. And there were nights that I was having such bad panic attacks that as a guy, I don't really like to admit this, but there were nights where I went to bed just bawling my eyes out for no reason whatsoever, just scared to death, and not actually knowing if I was going to wake up the next morning. Like, that's how bad it was. And I remember going to a primary care physician just because of the heart attack feel. I wanted to go. I lived in Boston at the time. And the doctor literally just asked me really quick, like, do you ever get anxious? Do you ever have anxiety? Like the simple, most quote-unquote innocent question, I guess you'd say. And I said, yeah, I get anxious. And she literally, with no diagnostic tests, whatever, sent me over to a psychiatrist. And I literally had maybe 2 visits, about 15, 20 minutes each. And then he put this questionnaire in front of me on the second visit. And I remember it being like 10 questions or something like that, multiple choice. And, as physicians, we've taken plenty of tests in our life. So it wasn't that it was a hard test. It was the way it was set up. Questions like, if someone walks in a room while you're taking this test, do you look up? And, I do. I mean, if I'm giving a presentation now and somebody walks into the room, I look up really quickly. You're looking for your environment, making sure everything is safe. But in their world, that was a deficit, like disorder deficit. So like you were distracted, you were not paying attention, you were daydreaming, whatever it was. And they actually ended up diagnosing me with the 98th percentile of ADD, ADHD, and they put me on Adderall and Zoloft. And so literally I went home. I didn't know anything about those medications. I didn't know one is basically prescription meth. Like Adderall is a legal form of meth essentially. And so I took them home. I've never done a drug in my life, so I don't really know what high is. I took those, and at 26 years old, I'm cleaning my apartment until 4 a.m. on a Saturday morning. Like just intense, like not really in my body, feeling really strange. Now, luckily, I took myself off after one pill of each because that didn't feel right to me. And that's why I always say I was one step away from literally going down this really dangerous paradigm because as you and I know, you don't just take people off these medications if they've found them on long term because they are technically a narcotic. And then fast forward later on, basically I got myself healthy by nutrition. So healthy nutrition totally changed my lifestyle. I cut all sugar out and chiropractic care because at this point I'm a doctor of chiropractic. I do nutrition muscle testing in my office called nutrition response testing. And now I get to help all of those kids and parents that come in who literally have had the same thing as I had. So it's a real gift. It's an honor for me to be able to literally help people change their lives every day over something that really almost took me out as well.
Yeah, that's quite a story. I mean, you were that close, it sounds like, because that's really true. You know, once you start going down that road, it can be hard to turn the direction, you did. So in our pre-chat, you were saying that, or even in the story, I guess you told us, you weren't really in the health field. You had this experience. Is that part of what sent you in the direction you are now in your life?
Yeah, it did actually. My grandmother died of her third heart attack. My grandfather passed away from pancreatic cancer, and not to get too morbid, but I actually found my grandmother passed away, and it was kind of the other hardest moment of my life. But basically, at the point, I didn't know what I was going to be doing. I actually went into the sports industry. I was doing stuff there, but later on, I actually met my wife back in 2005, and she was already a chiropractor. And so I had actually moved to Florida, very busy executive at the time. I was traveling around the world in the sports industry, and I actually went and found this girl on Match.com who ended up being my wife now, and she was a doctor. And it's actually funny. I always had gone to a chiropractor off and on as a kid. I never had the greatest nutrition in the world, after my mom, I was out of my mom's hands, but I always knew about chiropractic. So I was very happy to, it was cool to date a chiropractor, and then I ended up marrying her. And then she had her own health issues as well, which she's now fully recovered from because of what we do in the office. But literally seeing what I see now, and I almost live like a whole different world at this point. Because before I was in that, I literally was the typical average American then. I was eating terrible food, running around like crazy. I enjoyed what I was doing, but now I actually get to enjoy what I'm doing every day, but I also get to help people. And I fear for a lot of people out there, especially the kids. I take care of a lot of kids. I fear because no one's asking questions. So when I was in that situation with a psychiatrist getting those medications, I didn't know what questions to ask. I didn't know what to do. I just thought they were professionals. They know what they're doing. It took me a while later to find out that they aren't even diagnosing technically because there's not a diagnostic test I was given. I was given a multiple choice test. You can fail a multiple choice test even if you knew the answers technically. Right. But it was all basically guesswork. And then I'm given these two narcotics. One's basically a methamphetamine and not told any side effects, not told anything. And again, I'm like an American today a lot of times where I'm not looking at the label. I'm just taking their word for it. And that quickly got me into trouble. But that actually fast forwarded me to, divine intervention, the career I'm in today, getting to help people.
So you had that experience where you were diagnosed, they gave you the medications, you stopped after one because it just didn't feel right. And then what did you do? Because, obviously, or it would seem like you're not suffering from those symptoms anymore. So what did you do to help, yourself change direction in your own health?
Yeah, so it's actually funny because as I carried forward, I started doing a lot of self-development work as well, finding out like who I was and things like that. But the first thing I will tell you is, and I know you're going to have a lot of different doctors, a lot of different backgrounds from both nutrition, physiologically, medical, et cetera, coming up in this ADHD summit, which I love. And I checked out all the people you had, and they're awesome people. And they're going to probably dive deep into some of the, brain chemistry, physiology, and things like that. So I'm going to actually take a different route for you. Because I want parents to actually be awake to something. Now, I will tell you first and foremost, I had to cut sugar out of my life. Now, Are there healthy forms of sugar? Yeah, off and on I'll have something here or there. But I will tell you the processed, refined white sugar and the carbohydrates, the pastries, the cookies, this stuff, it's all gone. And that was priority number one for me. And it's priority for everyone out there, too, if you're listening to this, that you can't be on that stuff and be kind of in your right mind. Because technically, I mean, the refined carbohydrate sugar, white sugar, is essentially not far off from cocaine. And, you know, I tend to be, as you know, the little bit of edgy personality. When you put that white sugar in their face, it's like cocaine. They've literally set up two brains, one next to another, one on cocaine, one on white sugar, and it lights up the same brain centers. So it makes you feel good right in the beginning. Absolutely. We're addicted to it as Americans, right? But then after you have the crash, you're depleting all the minerals out of your body, and you're literally breaking the body down far faster than it should actually be broken down. And that's why you're seeing kids have temper tantrums. They're not performing well in different areas. I always say, do the birthday cake test or the birthday test. Go to a birthday party and watch all the kids playing before the party kind of starts or whatever. And they're all doing fine. They're having fun. And all of a sudden you bring out the birthday cake and you can put a timer on it. It's almost like 15 minutes after they eat the cake or all the goodies. Then the temper tantrums start. They start fighting with each other. The crying starts, etc. And that's just that is what that does, what the sugar does. But I wanted to dive into something for you, which was a little different. And I wanted to tell people, both as kids if you're listening, but also parents who are listening to the kids, keep in mind, if you have someone that kind of ventures off into this world where, you know, the attention may not always be there, et cetera, usually these people, because I know I was thinking a lot. You know, I'm a very creative person. I'm an idea guy. And sometimes I need little help executing on the ideas. But we're living in a completely different world today. And what I say by that is, I grew up playing outside. Like, I had to go outside every single day. Grew up on a farm sometimes too. And then I came in at night. I was riding my bike. I was out doing stuff, playing in forts, building forts, you name it. And today we have iPads, we have cell phones, and how many kids do you see on a daily basis who are literally looking down at an iPad or phone all day long? I see it in my practice, right? And it's become the babysitter versus letting them go outside and actually play. And let me tell you, that is a big difference. You know, I had an Atari, Nintendo, and then I had a Sony PlayStation was the highest I got. But guess what? My mom actually only let me play that for like roughly 30 minutes a day. And then if I did something wrong, it was taken away. Like, I didn't get to play it. Like the video games today, and I played like Madden and sports games. You know, there were things that are actually helping me develop a little bit. You know, leadership, learning plays on the field and things like that. The games today, you know, I don't want to dive into the whole game thing and what it does to the brain, but it's a very different world today. And I want to tell you that your kids have a gift. Everyone has a gift. I want you to unlock the genius in them. So what have I changed today, and what did I change up to that point in about 2006 and then 2010 is I now have a schedule. So if I don't stay on schedule, I sometimes veer off and I catch the shiny object, you know, the squirrel. Oh, squirrel, I'm looking the other way, right? I have a schedule that I must keep mostly every day. Am I perfect on it? Absolutely not. I'm not perfect on it. But I keep it because I call it no white space on the calendar. Parents, you parents, you have to be the model because kids watch you, right? So you have to be the model. Make sure your schedule is busy. Make sure you're staying productive all day long until you go to bed at night, right? It doesn't always have to be work, but doing something. Have your kids productive. If they wake up in the morning and they're doing things, not watching television, not watching games, etc., keep them productive, and then all the way through to the end of the evening, keep them productive, no white space on the calendar. I guarantee you're going to start seeing different things out of them because we tend to get in trouble. We tend to do things we shouldn't be doing when we have too much time on our hands, and I was no different at all. I mean, kids are getting screened in schools at this point, right? Kids are getting screened for mental health issues in school. Hey, Doc, were you able to sit still for, say, 6 to 8 hours a day when you were in school, or were you looking outside in that window with like the play area and like freedom?
Yeah, I had the hardest time, and I know that in a lot of schools they're cutting back on some of those things that you got to get out and move, like, I mean, certainly gym class, music, art, even some schools are pulling out recess and that type of stuff. So, yeah, I mean, and I had all that stuff, and it was still tough to sit still for, a couple classes in a row. And,
Right,
and
right.
especially to your point, the classes that I had no interest in what I was being taught, or I had a really boring teacher. I mean, there were a lot of variables that made it almost unbearable to sit still, for the hour or whatever the length of the time the class was, for sure.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I mean, I again, you're the same thing. I had home ec, I had metal shop, wood shop. I didn't like those two, but I still took them and I learned something. And we had a pretty tough teacher who kept us in line. I had a football coach for a math teacher, and he was like the Vince Lombardi type. Like, they kept us in line. We had recess for about a half an hour a day, and yet I still sat in the class daydreaming to freedom out the window. And now we're expecting all these kids to sit, no music, no art, no home ec, none of these things, the creative outlet that we had, plus learning the basic essentials and things in life that we need to do. They don't have any of this today, but yet you're making them sit there, and then they have to take all these standardized tests that I didn't have to take. I took one SAT. I essentially almost failed it. And guess what? I still became a doctor, and I still help lots of people. And we have this paradigm that we think we have to keep all these kids in this little box, and it's just not true. What you need to do is you need to let them be creative. They need the creative outlets of art, music, etc., going outside, doing things. And I will tell you, if you do that and you feed them well and keep them off the medications, you will see the hidden genius in all of these kids come out, because guess what? They all have the genius. They're all ideas. I can come up with 20 different ideas a day and write them all down. And as long as I'm focused on that, I don't get distracted by everything.
And so when you're when you're talking about having no white space, just sort of a question comes up, and I kind of think I know your answer, but because you also talked about playing outside a lot as a kid. I mean, do you schedule that into your kid's schedule, like playing outside from 3 to 6 or whatever it is?
Yeah, so it's funny. I have a daughter who is now she'll be 5 years old in a couple weeks, and she gets up in the morning. She actually is up like this at 7 a.m., and she goes out, and we actually try to do some art and stuff with her. We do let her watch a couple different things, but it's actually productive things. We actually work on languages and things like that. And I will tell you, the funny part about this is the TV is addicting the kids. Even her, she will sometimes in the morning be like, I want to watch television. Not meanly, but you can see they're programmed to want to watch more television. And so we work on cutting that down. We only watch certain things. I'm very careful about what she watches. But then from there, she's in gymnastics every day. She's in gymnastics once a day. She's in ballet once a day. She stays very productive all week. And then at night, we go home and we're doing things. My wife buys art stuff from Target and different places pretty much every single week. She's got these workbooks that are basically homeschool workbooks that she's already writing out her name and everything else and doing all this stuff ahead of time. She actually is in practice with me all day, so she kind of has a version of homeschool. But you talk about the white space. I mean, in the morning, you're getting up early, get up a little earlier, make sure they're doing something, eating a good, nutritious breakfast, Cheerios, Fruit Loops, Captain Crunch, cookies, pastries. That is not a nutritious breakfast. Get up there, maybe have some eggs, some bacon, some really good fats. Set them on their day to where they can actually use their brain. They're in school all day, so that's fine. I get it. They're going to be busy. But when they get home, let's get family time back. Let's actually have dinner at the dinner table. Ask them some questions. If they have homework, get that done. And then, man, if you have a backyard, go out and play. Do some fun stuff. But no white space is literally if you're just mulling around and sitting around for a half hour, an hour, and you have nothing to do, the video games pop in, but also their mind goes a little crazy and they find ways to maybe get attention or things that they shouldn't necessarily be doing. And you have to monitor that. That's why I say no white space. Just keep everyone very productive. It doesn't mean they have to be working. It just means you got to keep their mind on something, artistic-wise. Find a good musical instrument they like to do. Your kids will know. They'll talk to you. They'll ask you questions. They'll want to learn stuff, but you have to put it in front of them.
Gotcha. So let me just shift gears a little bit, because you mentioned a couple of the things like what you do, in your practice, and you mentioned chiropractic and nutritional response testing. Can you touch on? I have a couple other guests that are going to dive deep into the chiropractic side. Not that you have to avoid that, but
Sure.
I'd be interested to share a little bit about the nutrition response testing, some of that stuff you do, and some of the results you see with kids in particular.
Yeah, so we're a family practice, so it's my wife and I who's also a chiropractor, but we also have, I think we have 6 or 7 associates now who, a lot of them are just nutrition practitioners who do nutrition response testing. And in my world, nutrition response testing, so it's a form of muscle testing. A lot of people out there have heard of muscle testing. They're a little weirded out by muscle testing because it's so different. I will tell you that I was actually trained post-grad, so I had to pay out of my pocket for all this at a place called Ullin Nutritional Systems in Clearwater, where there's actually kind of a university, really, where you learn over a year and a half, like practical steps you have to go and get drilled on. You have to know what you're doing on muscle testing, because muscle testing, like chiropractic, there is obviously the physical aspect of it, but there's an art to it. Like, there's some really bad muscle testers out there, and then there's really great muscle testers out there. So we pride ourselves on doing that, and I actually teach classes, so I got it down pretty good. But basically, we have somebody come in. I can do blood tests, or I don't have to do blood tests. It's simply that easy. And I will tell you, most people miss a lot of stuff on blood tests, or they don't know what panels to actually run. So we run the proper ones if necessary. You can do mineral panels, etc. And then you can also do inflammation tests. So I don't have to necessarily do all those, but what I can do is I can actually use the muscles in your body to test what's doing well in your body and what's under stress. So in a nutrition standpoint, I don't diagnose anything. That's not my world. I don't take people off medications. What I do is I find out if there's something stressed in your body. We find out why. The most common stressors that cause any sickness in the body are heavy metals toxicity, heavy chemical toxicity, immune challenges, which could be ranging from funguses to bacteria. Parasites is one of the biggest problems on Earth, and most people don't even know about it. And then you have food sensitivities, which people, tons of food sensitivities today. I actually test for those, as well as scar therapy. So like a scar on your body. If you have a surgical scar sometimes across the midline of your body, that can really throw a body off, because that midline, as in acupuncture, the meridian going down, is the most important in the body. And so our brain is connected to all our nerves. If you have nerves cut, that can actually throw off the neurological system. And basically what I do, I handle a lot of autistic kids, but I also handle a lot of attention deficit disorder kids that they've been labeled that. I don't call them that. They come in, and every single one, 10 out of 10 kids that come in that have any diagnosis like that, their food, their diet on a daily basis is either average to poor or horrible. And parents are feeding it to them. And I get beat up for this a little bit, but I tell you, like, there's a great documentary out there called The Magic Pill on Netflix, where they took an autistic girl. She would not eat the food they wanted her to eat, so they let her starve, basically. Literally let her starve, but they would not feed her the goldfish, the Doritos, etc. that she was used to eating. She went 5 days without eating. Right? She actually lost some weight, but after 5 days, guess what she did? She ate what they wanted her to eat, which was a high-fat ketogenic diet, and she literally, like magic, within weeks to months, she changed into an entirely different human being. So I work daily with their food, making sure we're getting proper nutrients, good fats, just quality food overall. And then what I'm doing is I'm using whole food organic supplementation, whole herbal supplementation, and then basically homeopathic remedies, all from physician-grade only companies, so it's not your typical grocery store stuff. And we actually build a body back up after removing the toxicities through the muscle testing.
Gotcha. Yeah, that sounds interesting. And so, I had like 2 questions pop through my head. You mentioned heavy metal, viruses, parasites, a bunch of different things there that you kind of test for, food sensitivities. Do you find all of those things, or any number of those things with like the ADHD kids, or are there particular ones that seem to show up the most often with kids suffering from those symptoms?
Most of the time with kids, I see a combination, definitely food sensitivity, just because they're eating a lot of grains, not just the sugar, but grains, soy, corn. And at this point, most of us know in the health profession that I would say about 100% now of your grains and your soy are, for the most part, genetically modified, have glyphosate all over them. If you don't know about glyphosate, go look that up. I don't want to go into it too deep, because that's a whole other seminar in its own, or a whole other presentation. But I definitely find, from an immune standpoint, sometimes you have BPAs and things like that, the chemical that comes off plastic. I see parasites a lot. I'm going to tell you right now, well over 90% of the American population, but I would say the world, deals with parasites at some level or another, and to the point where it's out of control. And basically, we handle parasites, whether they're large or small parasites in the body. They can be microscopic. But at the end of the day, too, we have to heal the gut, because the gut has just been absolutely destroyed. So that can make big bacteria go way off. A lot of kids' stomach aches today. I mean, a lot of ADHD kids have stomach aches today. I mean, you have literally the gut-brain axis, and their gut is off. It has a bad bacteria growing out of control. They have the bad form of parasites growing out of control. They have a lot of skin issues. Anytime I've ever seen skin issues, I see a lot of skin issues in ADD, ADHD kids. You'll always see parasites and fungal type stuff. So yeah, there's a very common thread there. I see a lot of parasitic infections with people, and it's something they don't even necessarily know is there yet, because it hasn't become so bad that it's affecting them. I actually just finished up with a girl who's in her second year of college, local school here, big university, and she literally is head to toe broken out in a rash. She was diagnosed with the ADD, ADHD label, and literally we just started working on food and handling some parasite issues with her. In literally less than 4 weeks, her skin is well over halfway back to where it was supposed to be. The dryness has gone away. She's actually sleeping again. She was trying to crawl out of her skin. She felt so bad. And I see this a lot in ADD, ADHD kids.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, that's remarkable in 4 weeks to have that big of a change. That's really cool.
Yeah.
So let's see. Let me ask one more question in this direction. So nutrition response testing, is that something that there are a lot of people doing? Would people in different areas, would it be easy to find somebody who does that, or is it kind of obscure?
No, it's growing. I mean, obviously, it's not 60,000 chiropractors like I would love to see it, obviously. It's a smaller niche market, but you also have a lot of muscle testers out there. But actually, what I'll do for you is a practitioner actually created a map. A Google map literally has little flags all over the area of the country where there are practitioners that do this. And so they're more than happy. And at the end of I know I'm gonna give you my Facebook information so people can actually direct message me, and I can send over some PDF and actual videos to them. But also I'll send that Google map out to them. More than happy to. And yes, they're all fantastic practitioners. They're amazing at what they do. A lot of them are chiropractors, acupuncturists, naturopaths. So you're getting somebody who knows the full scope of health. But at the end of the day, anybody who's listening, parents, kids, if you're dealing with something like this, just know you're not broken. Nothing is wrong with you. Yes, I know there's a problem and you're experiencing symptoms and you're having brain issues and parents, your kids are out of control. I get it. But I will tell you, between the different things I spoke about today, in handling those things, as well as finding a practitioner, whether it's somebody in nutrition response testing, chiropractic, or anything else in the holistic world, I will tell you, it's out there. The internet is exploding with the information now. Everyone is waking up to this. If you reach out to people like us, we will point you in the right direction. We will get you in front of people that will help you get this under control. You just have to know that, one, you and your kids are not broken. They're not stupid. You're actually all geniuses, and we will get you down a path of healing correctly to be the person you actually should be.
That's awesome. That's a awesome take-home message. I appreciate that. That's, that we're all geniuses inside. That's one of my core tenets that I work with families and kids with as well. So I wanted to just touch on two things real quick. First, tell us about what you do in your online. I know, I introduced you as, from Revolution Health. And then afterwards, just that contact information you mentioned so they could get those the information from you and the video and so forth. Yeah,
so what I actually do, so I'm a creator, founder of Revolution Health, which you'll actually find at my Facebook page. You'll see my Dr. Jason Dean Facebook page out there as well. But the actual Revolution Health goes through my personal page, just because I've had a lot of people coming to me that want it, and I just decided to go out that route and do it. But basically what my mission is literally to wake up as many people as we possibly can. So, whether we're dealing with a crazy financial system or political system, you're dealing with a health system that is literally out of control. People wonder why they can't afford their premiums anymore and their health insurance, and they're still running to, CVS, Walgreens with their ER for like a cough and a sniffle, etc. And they're completely brought down the wrong road. They're giving misinformation. And my job is literally, I've taken it upon myself because I just want to help as many people as humanly possible. I want to reach a global community of teaching you this is what you can actually do for your health, but it has to be a revolution. we literally have to get away from this paradigm, because the number one cause of bankruptcy right now in America is medical bills, but they're medical bills for the wrong things. It's someone going and getting $40,000 or $50,000 worth of diagnostic tests because you had some digestive problems and you felt pain in your stomach or abdomen, which I've had people do before. And next thing you know, they're in debt over something that we fixed with, $5 or $10 worth of supplementation and a chiropractic adjustment. And that's insane to me. And so my job is actually, what I'm doing is I'm bringing forth not only my personal knowledge for you on how to get well, be better, but also help practitioners do it. And I interview pretty much at least a couple times a week someone in the health field as an expert, both from the natural health standpoint, but also as a medical standpoint, and giving you education on vaccines, genetic modified foods, glyphosate, chiropractic, what's going on in the world, what's going on politically. I mean, today, I'm literally at 2 o'clock today, I'm talking to a gentleman named Austin Bennett, who is a write-in candidate for the California State Senate, coming up against Senator Richard Pan. And if anybody knows who Richard Pan is, he is one of the guys who is literally kind of taking over communist California and trying to force mandatory vaccinations on all parents and all kids. I'm actually talking to him at 2 o'clock today. He's also going over medical kidnapping, which maybe people didn't even know was about. So it's about talking to people like that who are in the world right now, and they're literally trying to make an impact and revolutionize how this entire healthcare paradigm is put on us. Because right now, we're not living healthcare, we're living sick care, but we can now, with this medium, like what you're doing right now, what we're doing, we can literally change this thing. We have free media, and we can now defeat, or I shouldn't say defeat, because there is a time and place to save a life with a medication, but we're out of control right now with medication. It's the time to defeat this whole system that has blanketed us with their misinformation and honestly sickness. Yeah,
totally. So people want to find out more and hear from these experts and stuff. They find you through your Facebook page, or what's the best way to do that?
So actually go to, because the Facebook business pages there's a weird algorithm of Facebook if some people don't know that. So actually go to facebook.com/ it's NY Diener, like New York, NY Diener, my last name with the ER at the end of it. Go there, you will go. I have well over the 5,000 friends at this point, so I'm blocked from that. But do me a favor, follow it, and then we're actually building up the network channel as well. And so once you're there, you can actually even direct message me. I get back to everyone as fast as I possibly can, so you're welcome to do that. Go check that out. Follow and subscribe to that. I have a podcast out there as well, Revolution Health, on iTunes and Stitcher, all those. And it's on YouTube as well. It's all being uploaded, so you get more information constantly. And message me over the next week or so, and I'll actually send you over a link as well. But we get you like a PDF document of the things you can do on a daily basis to help yourself if you're dealing with ADHD or ADD, or your kids are, that you can do. And then I'll actually get you a link over to a video, just a presentation I've done, a little more background on me, and how you can actually prevent problems in your life healthcare-wise, and how you can actually be preventative in your healthcare going forward.
Awesome. So I'll put the links below for your Facebook and also to the podcast, and then a note saying to direct message you if people want those resources that you're offering.
Sure.
And, just to stay in touch and be able to know when you're coming out with the different interviews. I know I've watched a bunch of your stuff, and it's always enlightening. You have like really interesting people that share, a lot of different insight and perspectives, and I learn stuff every time I tune into your show. So I think
appreciate that.
Everybody else will too.
Awesome. I appreciate it.
Yeah, well, you're welcome. Well, I appreciate so much you being on with us, kicking off the summit with us today. It's been great to get your perspective. And I think, some of the things you touched on, we will dive deeper into. We mentioned chiropractic. There's someone who's going to dive deeper into glyphosate and the GMO issue, nutrition, and some different things, even with more of sort of like some of the parenting side or how to structure your family life. So it was a great way to sort of kick it off, give us a good overview and some good insights and stuff to take forward. So I appreciate you taking the time with us today and sharing some of your knowledge and wisdom.
You're welcome. Happy to help, and happy to be able to deliver a message with you to help a lot of people get healthier.
Awesome. All right. You take care. And
you too.
We will continue later today. Our next interview is with Debbie Reber from Tilt Parenting, and she'll be at 1 o'clock Pacific time. And so be sure to tune in for that, anyone who's watching and wants to learn from Debbie. She has some awesome stuff to share from the perspective of sort of the parenting side, how to work with your differently wired kids. And I think it piggybacks right along with what Dr. Jason here was talking about, everyone being a genius and bringing that forward in our children. So tune in 1 o'clock Pacific today. All right, we'll see you then.